Hello, I'm Brandon. This is Audio Able, which you are listening to. Today I am being joined with
Connor
and
Sophie.
So, the two of you have brought yourselves some topics. Very interesting. Connor, how about you introduce yours? Give us a quick fact.
I'm here to talk about veganism, which is the practice of abstaining from the use of animal products, particularly in diet, and an associated philosophy that rejects the commodity status of animals, and an individual who follows the diet or philosophy is known as a vegan.
I like it. How about you pick a card? Pick a card, any card. We've got a deck of cards here, and we're going to determine who is going to be speaking first. There you go. Alright, Sophie, how about yourself? What's your topic, and give us a quick fact about it.
I will be talking about, I'm mainly focusing around paganism, and how we are basically one of the facts is that we are technically pagans. Pagans believe, we believe in the fact that of nature, basically, that we're all part of nature, and that we should all really treat the community, nature, with all great respect.
I like it. Religion and a belief.
Yeah.
Two very interesting topics. How about you pick a card for yours?
That one.
Alright. Reveal.
Ooh.
Connor got a 6 of clubs and Sophie got a 10 of diamonds.
I am a diamond though, so what do you expect?
I mean, she's going to be talking first. How about you give us a quick little introduction, maybe simplify it down for the viewers, about paganism, what the belief is, and what it entails.
Paganism is not a very well-known religion, but what it entails is basically about caring for nature and how, as people...
In what aspects does it mean caring for nature? Because there's people out there thinking about global warming, and would that be considered paganism, because that is technically caring for nature, or is it more specific than that?
It is kind of a mixture of that and the fact that, like, everything grows and we should all be protected, really. Now everyone believes, because we are nature at the end of the day, we're all human.
We're all natural.
Yes.
We're all born of this planet.
Yes, and so therefore we all believe that everyone is, basically nature. We are nature, basically, and how nature is quite beautiful, and we always try to find a way to take care of it. So some of us do witchcraft, basically, and what that entails is basically doing.
Let's like to interject. Witchcraft is not necessarily seen as the most positive thing, especially throughout history. A lot of people were subject to harsh punishments for simply acting in witchcraft. And how is that related to paganism, can I ask? Because paganism is for caring about nature, and from what I understand about witchcraft, it's more magic based and manipulating of said nature.
Well,
from what I understand, of course, I haven't researched the topic.
Well, basically, no, it has a lot to do with paganism, because of the fact that only some people, and back then it was considered wrong, and people were burned, which my heart go out to them, and
as do us all.
And basically, what witchcraft entails is basically doing safe rituals to help preserve nature, not in a bad way, as people back then used to think. So they were burned just because they wanted to help either nature and all that. Because my mum was pagan, so was my nan before she passed away, and she did witchcraft and all that, and it wasn't evil. Some people would use it for evil, but not all of them. Most of them would actually try and find a way. And as I do, I sometimes use witchcraft to just speak to spirits that have passed on, so we can see what they're doing.
Like a loved one who has recently or has been dearly departed.
Yeah, and
does it actually work? Because in this modern age, there's a lot of people who don't necessarily believe in it. I don't think Connor believes in the spiritual world or all of this stuff, especially the communication between one of them. So, can I ask, I feel as if it's different now than what it was back then.
Well, yeah.
I feel that way. I can't exactly put a word to it, but I feel like the modern world, it's a lot more difficult to connect to the spiritual world, as it was probably a lot easier back then.
Yeah, that's
Would you
true.
agree? Or
Yeah, that's true. I'm not gonna lie about that. Yes, that's 100% true. But it's not impossible. I mean, the only issue about mundane now is that a lot of people have built over nature and the grounds underneath our feet. You gotta remember, at the end of the day, that's nature, and you're basically just destroying it and placing something like really heavy on top of it, practically killing it, suffocating it.
yeah,
And
the crushing weight of modern technology, of crushing weight of the cities,
yeah,
and that could be why a lot of people don't exactly believe in spirits these days, because you see a lot of skepticism regarding the whole subject.
well, yeah, but at the same time, like, at the end of the day, it is also, a lot of people also do agree with spiritualists, because I am a medium per se. As
A
well.
medium?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Medium's basically a person that can communicate with spirits using a talent that they have either been given, and if you don't use it after a certain period of time, it'll just go away.
Kind of like those people with the magic balls that charge you money for false prophecies or something like that.
Yes,
Or is it actually more serious than just, I've got this ball,
it's more serious than that.
I'll put
When you
my
come
fingers
into
on this
medium,
ball and here's your future? Or is it actually...
It's a lot more. You need a lot of focus to communicate with spirits as a medium, as an experience. I know a person called Alan Amiru who died of diphtheria at the age of 11. Diphtheria is like a chest infection back in the Victorian days, and it couldn't be cured, and it eventually killed them. But it takes a lot of mental focus to actually communicate with them.
So you're actually communicating with a spirit called Alan?
Yeah, I called him Roger for up to 7 years without realising his actual name.
Well, I believe it may be difficult to get someone's name when it's, a little bit more difficult to communicate with them, because we can communicate. I can say,
Yeah,
my name's
well-
Brandon, your name's Connor, your name is Sophie. But
There's many ways of communicating with them. Like me granda, he can listen to them. He can actually speak to them.
Oh.
Can't hear them, but he can speak to them, and you'll hear what he has to say. Me, what I can do is I can always sense when there's a presence around.
like when you get that chill down your spine, or
Yeah.
the hairs on your arms stick up or something like
Yeah,
that.
and on top of that, I can actually communicate them with it as well, but only through my head, obviously, mentally. But no, they're
It's quite actually interesting. I've always been a fan of the spiritual world, the idea of it. The ancient Egyptians, if everyone knows about them, they believe that their bodies were... What was it? They had to preserve their bodies,
mummify them.
of course, and that would help their transition into the underworld. I don't
The
exactly...
afterlife.
The afterlife, yes. Is the ancient Egyptians' belief similar to paganism, can I ask? Or is it...
I'd say it's halfway there. I wouldn't say it's not, and it is, because I'm not entirely sure either. I feel like it's a mixture of both, though.
Yeah, it's got similarities, but they're clearly different, of course.
But
'Cause-
yeah, the whole point about the medium thing and getting mixed in with the whole obviously paganism thing is due to the fact that at the end of the day, we are pure energy as well. We are pure energy. And even if the universe ended, which I hope it does not, I hope it doesn't go out anytime soon, we won't be destroyed by it. I mean, after all, as they say, nature always prevails, and I believe that's the case because if you think about it, an atom's a particle is actually nature. Because it exists in every living thing, even the walls, the
yeah.
ground, everything.
So, science is kind of a bit intertwined with it in a way.
Yeah, it's basically part of everything, but like as it stands, a lot of people are destroying it. So it's not hard, it's not impossible, but it's getting a little more difficult since not many people even know about it.
Since there's not many purely natural areas or environments where people can actually go to,
Yeah.
where they will be more susceptible to being able to communicate with the underworld or spirits.
I mean, if you go to things like countryside, it's 100% possible. You just gotta be careful of when it comes to... I know it sounds silly, because it gets a lot harder. There is a certain place and a certain item that if you get too close to it, it'll almost become almost impossible to do it. And that's power lines. Don't go anywhere near power lines while you're doing it, or else you'll get something either off a radio rather than a spirit, and you'll be like, what's going on here? It gets really hard to do that next to a power line, so I usually tend to do it in my house, but I always make sure everything's off in my room beforehand.
Yeah.
And that's when I start to focus. If there's any power lines in the countryside, don't bother.
I wanted to also quickly touch on the thing because Connor's talking about veganism, the treatment of animals, and what was it again? Can you just remind me?
What veganism was about?
Yes.
Veganism is the practice of abstaining from the use of animal products and an associated philosophy that rejects the commodity status of animals.
So, kind of similar to the protection of wildlife and animals in general, and protection of nature for paganism.
Yep.
Would you, because there are very abundant similarities here, would paganism reject the modern way of how we, or the ways we consume food? Because other animals are part of nature, as paganism suggests.
Yep.
And by that, are we doing it right? Because
well, that's
we
a
are
very controversial thing, really, if you think about it, because if we didn't do that, like, if it came to a life or death situation, if the world suddenly went to absolute chaos, what else do we have? Like, if you think about it,
well,
it's like,
from what, sorry to interrupt, but from what veganism stands, there are clearly substitutes for animal products. I've recently actually tried a meat-free burger, which pretty much tasted exactly like a normal beef burger. The texture was slightly different, but if I wasn't paying attention or if I wasn't looking for it, I believe I could go day to day without noticing it. Would that be fine? Would that be a fine substitute?
well, yeah, I suppose it would be. But like at the end of the day, if it came to like a life or death situation, at that point you probably wouldn't have a choice in the matter, because either way one of them dies. But if you think about it, certain animals also carry like different chemicals as well. Some of them can actually end up, and this is actually true, some of them can eventually end up worsening the earth, if you know what I mean, kind of just turning it, making it a bit more toxic and all that.
Kind of like what humans are doing
we
with...
are actually helping as well, because if you think about it, if any of these got into the earth, it would pretty much be devastating if too much of it got into the earth. But yeah,
I'd like to touch on that, because that is a very interesting debate on who or what species actually does currently do now, or will do in the future, more damage to the planet.
cows.
Things you find in burgers. And
Yes,
all that.
and the methane
And-
they release is actually toxic.
Yeah.
It's toxic. It's
Yeah,
not
but
good.
if we stop eating cows, and then we'll no longer breed them into existence.
How will we
for
do
the,
that? We basically let them all die out. The more waste and the more they damage the earth.
The only reason why cows are being bred is so that we can eat them and drink their milk.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Not entirely.
I actually want to hear about this, because I have believed for a long time that the majority of animals that are bred nowadays are mainly for the consumer market. Isn't food, probably shoes and all that, and other products where animals are required. So what other reasons would these animals, like cows, pigs, chickens, what other purpose would they be bred for?
Well, to have they are, and technically we are animals. We are animals. Think about it. We are animals. And
I mean, like,
we are animals. And
I mean, in
we deserve a life. We are given life for a reason.
I mean, in
that's to
today's
experience
society,
it.
because the purpose of humans forcing them to breed is for the sake of consumption.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
On some degree, yeah.
you suggested that there's another reason why we are breeding them. And what exactly would that be?
Giving them a chance to live life. I mean, we've got animals on our farm. We don't use them for breeding. Well, not our farm. Jarrow Hall is a museum on the Venerable Bede, which I'm a volunteer at, and I actually have to look around the farm and make sure and help people around them. But no, we've got 2 bulls, and they are completely friendly, and we don't eat them.
But what's the difference between them and another animal, say, born in a different farm that would be slaughtered for food?
Well,
what makes them unique and different?
Some farm, yes, I understand about some of the fact they get killed for slaughter, but some of them, not all farms, some of them actually preserve some of their wildlife because maybe they sometimes keep certain animals as pets. I mean, my favourite animal at the farm at the minute is, which I kind of want to adopt, but I can't, obviously, because it's part of the farm property. I can't do that because the guy who actually owns the farm is actually letting these animals live. So that's why they brought them to the museum to look after and care for. So not all
So is that
farmers
like
are
an
bad.
animal sanctuary instead of a farm?
Yeah, pretty much. But like at
So,
the same.
so there's nothing getting produced there.
Well, they are getting produced, they are breeding and all that. We managed to actually recently, we've got a new little calf, which is quite cute. Mischievous, because he keeps running around 24/7, and we can't catch him fast enough. And he usually tends to break out with his actual gait. I mean, he's perfectly friendly. He'll just be like, "Can I have some attention, please?"
I want to ask because I feel like we're getting I think I might have derailed the topic a little bit too far here.
Sorry.
No, that was probably my fault. How about we roll it back? I wanted to ask the protection of nature. What, from your point of view, not the entirety of paganism, yours as an individual, how would you see us best protecting nature?
Well, first of all, stopping any resources. I don't mind occasionally knocking down trees occasionally, but only if
Absolutely necessary.
Only if absolutely necessary. Because at the end of the day, if we get rid of every single log, which is a tree, that's basically nature. And if you keep destroying them like rainforests, trees are getting cut down almost at least 2 or 3 times every minute.
So,
and we're basically negating the oxygen we could be using.
What you would prefer is, more often than not, for the logging industry to actually more or less thrive, because what they do is they cordon off a set of land, which they then grow trees.
There's hardly anything left of the Amazon rainforest.
Legitimately, the logging business, they grow trees to cut them down to plant the seeds again. So there's a constant cycle.
Yes,
so the trees aren't
great.
being completely destroyed like in the rainforest, which I personally definitely disagree with. But they are being cut down to then be planted again. Is that an industry you would be more supportive of?
Yes, definitely. As long as they are aware and they constantly plant after them, then that's 100% fine. I mean, we've got a logging area literally right next to Jarrow Hall, which I still do not approve of to this day. And basically there's like loads of logs, and they still haven't been used to this day. Like, it's so unnecessary to have them just standing there.
I will say the logging industry is definitely aware that they should replant, because they wouldn't have an industry if they didn't replant, of course. But what I've also heard something that they do to help fund the industry is they offer people on like quad bikes, small like vehicles, to drive around the area for a fee. It helps look at the nature, and they don't actually damage the land because of the gravel and the roads. And something I've always been wanting to do, but try not to get off topic. So you are in full agreement that this particular industry, the logging one where they grow trees to cut them down to plant them, that one is the one you agree with?
Yes, and that they stop building as many buildings on top of nature as possible. I mean, I understand occasionally because the population is growing, But at the minute it's currently dying. But even so, I mean, like, for future reference, like, it just eventually it'll just destroy all grass, all earth, everything. And you'll just be like building on top of building on top of building.
So I think the best solution would be skyscrapers. I'm not a fan of heights myself. I definitely
I went on the
hate
Ravens Claw. I
skys-
came back. I was like shaking Beth, and he was just standing there. He was older than me. She was like, I'm like, you wimp. I went on the Ravens Claw. She's like,
I don't like heights. I don't like skyscrapers. I'm not a fan of cities, but that would be the best solution because instead of building one house for one family, you're building one building for hundreds, if not more.
yeah, that's perfectly
So-
fine. I agree with that.
That's one good way of protecting nature and all that. I think that's all we have time for the moment.
Yeah.
But be happy to continue, and next episode we can talk further about veganism
Yeah.
and actually have this lovely discussion about how cows can damage the planet.
Yeah.
That sound good with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
It has been Audio Able. My name is Brandon,
Connor.
Sophie. So.
and we are all signing off.